Very good evening, brothers and sisters. Yes, we see statements from government officials of South Africa expressing their support in Russia. This brings me back some years ago when I issued a statement, not officially as I'm not a head of state. I expressed my concern about Africa. And I said back then in 2020, in a closed business forum, which also works with Africa, I said it back then. You will see. I do not know when, but you will see. That business forum was a general economic forum which also highlighted 75 years since the end of World War II. And I told them, if you think in the history of humanity that the landing in Normandy was the first and last, you are mistaken. There will be another landing. The problem will be Russia. I know how they are. I know exactly how they think. This is communism. Unlike socialism, which expresses the responsibility of the state on you. Communism is the state owning you. You are a property of the state. You have no word, no human rights, no rights at all. You are nothing. You are a number. As if there is no life inside of you. That is how communism works. I told them. Nobody believed me. My origin, my blood is Romanian. We know how Soviets are. We know exactly how they are. We know. I said the connection point between the West and South towards the East is Namibia. Namibia must be not invaded. I will never use the word invasion. There must be a landing in Namibia in coordination and cooperation with them as an emphasis of saving them and also South Africa. I saw the situation in South Africa ever since 2012. In 2020, I expressed my concern about South Africa and I told them I know how exactly what the government will do. The Russian government doesn't care about South Africans as humans. They care about the natural resources and the armament industry. The fact that South Africa has a weaponry industry, and that is the fact why you, South Africans, have power cuts and shortage of water. Drinking water which is used not to help the villages all over South Africa, not to assist those poor souls in South Africa which have nothing to drink and hardly any food. Drinking waters are used for cooling engines of industrial use. Electricity is diverted to industrial use of the armament industries. South Africa is not a sovereign state anymore. It's a puppet government controlled by the Kremlin in Moscow. I said it back then. Nobody believed me, and here we are in 2023. 1 year and 1 month to the full-scale invasion of Russia to Ukraine. And don't be mistaken about the so-called expression of empathy of United Nations, the blue helmets, to Africans which have nothing to eat. I know exactly where are the food banks of the United Nations. I know exactly who controls the food banks of the United Nations. And I also know, as a fact, that the current Secretary General of the United Nations, 𝐉𝐔𝐍, has a son, which is an honorable citizen of Moscow, a VIP in Russia, and a VIP in many Russian parliaments and various African governments. United Nations is not the only one to be blamed in the situation of South Africa and Africa in general. I blame AFU. I blame ECOWAS. They do not represent Africa. They do not represent Africans, only their own pockets and interests. I said it many years ago in another closed forum, which I expressed my concern about the disintegration of the voice of Africa, those who call themselves the Horn of Africa, the East, the Central, whatever. I said it very clearly back then, and I will say it in every chance I get. AFU is redundant, ECOWAS is redundant. It's nothing. It's the taxpayers of Africa, whatever is collected regularly or by force, goes to the pockets of those in AFU and ECOWAS. My call back then was for a new organization called Abba. Abba in the ancient Hebrew language is father. We know who our father on earth is. The one and only Father. I said that Abba should be based in Central African Republic, in the center of Africa. I said it. A real voice for Africa. A real meaning. And the removal of control of the United Nations from the food banks of Africa. Not like the hypocrisy which we see now in Ukraine, when they say, you must go harvest the grains, Ukraine, despite your tractors go on bombs and landmines, because Africans are starving. Africans are not starving because of Ukraine. Africans are starving because of a corrupted United Nations. And the blood of Ukrainians, Syrians, Yemens, Afghans, South Africans, Africans in general, Tigray, and everyone, is on the hands of Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, and the United Nations is an organization in general. The blood is on their hands. I do not know how it will end. I'm not a politician, I'm not a state leader, despite my organization has sovereign authority granted to it by the King of Hawaii. But still the King of Hawaii, and I understand him completely, I'm in favor of that, refuses to be a member of the United Nations. That's why we have an organization called One United Humanity, which maybe one day will be an alternative for this circus. In my years, despite I am considered a young man, I saw things about the United Nations. I saw the peace missions of the Blue Helmets. I saw a lot of things which I regret that my eyes saw, but I had no choice. I saw a few things even before I was 18, but I am not reluctant to talk about it. It was 30 plus years ago, and it's a long history, but there were things which I saw in the middle of wars, which what to do is part of life. But the voice should be clear. The voice should be clear. Whom to trust? That is the question which a lot of Africans are asking themselves. Whom to trust? Can you show us one leader in Africa, one, which took matters into his own hands to bring peace and security to his people? Can you show us one leader? My brothers and sisters, my answer is yes. There is one. There are a lot others, but they hide in shades. I do not know why. They call themselves leaders, but there is one. The President of Guinea-Conakry, the Gendarmerie of Guinea. This is not a military, this is a police force with military training. This is not even a military police. They are police in the highest level. They act as a police. They are not, as in Mali, supported by Wagner's. They are not as a Central African Republic, supported by Wagner's, and a lot of other places worldwide, and especially in Africa, supported by Wagner, which is the Tor organization supported by Russia. We have a cancer across Africa and worldwide. This is worse than Corona, and this is worse than Ebola. Corona and Ebola has a vaccination. Unfortunately, only by the use of force we can have a vaccination against the Russian plague. I know a lot of people tell me, you are Russophobic. Well, not. The answer is no. There was one guy, decades ago, leader of Yugoslavia, Tito, Socialist Republic of Yugoslavia. Stalin told them, I will kill you. Tito told them, come, you know where I live, You know where my office is? Come, try. I will destroy you with everything I have. Tito was a war hero of Second World War. Eventually he arrested all the communists and locked them in an island in Croatia called Goli Otok until the end of Yugoslavia, and then the prison dissolved. This is the reality. This is the reality. I prolong my speech, but I speak from the heart. I do not know who will hear this, besides the team here. Who will hear it if there is any opposition left in South Africa? If there is any opposition left, I'm not a politician. You have various political parties in South Africa. I am not considering the EEF as a political party. The Red Berets of South Africa is not a political party. You know what? You can Google. Even Hezbollah, the Hezbollah of Lebanon, in Google, you will see a political party. Both of them are terror organizations, disguised as a political party. This is terror, and we know how to fight terror. An armed force in the form of a military is struggling to fight terror. We see it in Ukraine. We see it in a lot of places. A police force which is trained in the highest level knows how to deal with those kind of bastards. We dealt with them before in World War II, and we will deal with them again once and for all. That is my voice. I do not know who will hear it. I do not know where will my voice go. South Africans, my brothers and sisters in this group, I want everyone to know, more than 4,800 kilometers away from you, there is someone called Junubi, which shares the same agony and pain as you are. I am with you, and I will help in any way I can. Thank you.